Hello students, myself Neha Bendre, working as Assistant Professor at Department of Zoology at RBNB College, Srirampur. So students, previously I have discussed with you different topics about the cell, which included various cell organelles, then the various processes of included in the cell, that are cell division, cell cycle, cell aging. So among that processes, the topic today I am going to discuss, that is cell death, is also an important process which has to end up with the cell death. Okay, so it's a very interesting topic because it is related to our regular process of life. So before beginning with this topic, I would like to share you one thing, that just as the processes that are included in our life, that since from our birth till young age, then adult, then old age, the life ends up after aging, getting old age, up till 95 or 100, life ends with 100, and so it causes death of that person. Okay, so that is a usual process from birth till death. So after a particular age or aging, the person has to be dead, because slowly their vital organs stop working, stops functioning, and so there is different kind of death of cells, and so that person has to be cause its death. So I want to discuss with you that same like our process, the same processes occurs in the cell. So the processes that we have discussed about the cell, like the cell cycle, which is similar to a regular cycle, in that there is active phase, there is dividing phase. In that dividing phase, there is the most important process called as cell division, in which the cell at a particular, it grows up to a particular size, okay, and then it divides again, then again it multiplies, divides, okay, the process goes on. During this process, after this process, there is one more, after a certain number of divisions of 50 to 100 generations, the cell division has to be stopped, okay, which later on the growth of the cell is stopped, and as growth is stopped, other functioning of cell stops and the cell starts aging. Okay, then after cell is aging, after stopping all its function, the cell has to die. So it's a proper programmed cell death. Might be, apart from this aging, there might be some death which occurs suddenly, okay, suddenly. So it may be due to an accident, due to some infection, there are lots of reasons, due to some shock or something. There are lots of many reasons because of which there is sudden death before the age. So that is also a part of cell death. So just now we have discussed about two types of death, which were programmed cell death, and one was the sudden death. The same processes are included in the cell also, in the cellular life also. So let us look on to the interesting facts about the cell death. So it is the event of biological cell ceasing to carry out various functions. The biological cell ceases to carry out its function. So this may occur due to dying of old cells so that they are replaced by new cells, the development of organ during embryogenesis or morphogenesis, or due to some localized injury or diseases or infection caused by some virus or bacteria. So important process for normal development of almost all multicellular organisms. So in human, about 1,000 cells die through they are produced by mitosis, and similar number die by physiological suicide called apoptosis. Okay, so the death of the cell, the replacement of cell goes on day by day. So all the metabolic activities of the body are carried out and regulated by the cells of tissues. So to carry out, the cell maintain or preserve its internal structure by maintaining the homeostasis. as we know, to maintain their structure, they have to maintain the homeostasis. But what if the homeostasis is not balanced or not maintained? So when it attains the imbalance, when the homeostasis is not maintained, it experiences the stress, okay, followed by two reasons. The stress on the cell is caused by two reasons, that is the physiological stress and the pathological stimuli. So let us know the reason why the stress on the cell is caused by these two types, that is physiological stress and pathological stimuli. What does the actually physiological stress mean, and what does the actually pathological stimuli means? So physiological stress is the stress caused due to a low amount of oxygen, that is hypoxia, various kind of radiations entering our bodies or through the skin, the trauma, the shock created on the cell, then extreme temperature, it may be extreme cold or extreme hot, the electric shock. Now we will see that what are the pathological stimulus which are causing some kind of diseases. So there is one reason called as microbial agents which are interfering in the cell, causing some infections. Due to intake of drugs, there is pathological incident in the cells due to intake of different kind of chemicals or entering of chemicals inside the body which causes infection to the cells. Then there are the reasons of pathological stimuli is the genetic defects, then the immunological reactions which may cause infection of T cells and B cells. So these all are the reactions that are causing some effect on the cells, okay, due to which there is a stress created in the cell which results into cell injury. As the stress is not overcome by the cell, so it leads to the injury. But before the cell injury, when this different kind of stresses occur, that is the physiological stress or pathological stimuli, there is some adaptation. Before the cell injury, the cell adapts this situation, adapts this stresses, different kind of stresses. It tries to remain viable, okay. So there are different kind of cell adaptation also. It directly doesn't jump to the step of cell injury. It tries to adapt themselves. So there are different kind of cell adaptations to stress to remain alive in such conditions. So there are 6 types of adaptation, that is atrophy of cells, hypertrophy, hyperplasia, metaplasia, dysplasia and hypoplasia. So in atrophy, what happens when the cell adapts due to adaptation of the cell during the stress condition? Sometimes it causes atrophy, means it decreases its cell size. In hypertrophy, the cell's size starts increasing. Okay, in hyperplasia, there is increase in the number of cells. Okay, then in metaplasia, there is change in the structure, morphological change in the structure of the cells. In dysplasia, there is abnormal development of cells, while in hypoplasia, there is decrease in the number of cells. So let us know about this deeply, that in atrophy, as I've said earlier, there is decrease in the size of cell. See, this is the, just now let me point out, you can see this is the normal cell, okay. So in this you can see in the atrophy, if compared with the normal cell, its size is decreased. In the case of adapting, it is adapting to the environment. So before getting into the cell injury, it decreases its size and try to adapt themselves. So it decreases its size. Then in hypertrophy, we can see it increases its sizes. as compared to the normal, you can see the size is increased. So this is called as hypertrophy. Hypertrophy means something that is increasing. Okay, so there is increase in the size. Here in hyperplasia, you can see there is increase in the number of cells. So something is increased. Hyper means increase. So what is increased? The number of cells are increased. So in hyperplasia, number of cells are increased. In metaplasia, if you observe, I have said you earlier, there is change in the structure. Morphological structure is changed. There is alteration in the cell structure. So you can see, if this is a cuboidal shape, this is a rhomboidal shaped cell. Okay, so it has changed its structure, which is not good at all. So it may cause some kind of change in the cell function also. Now in dysplasia, you can see there is abnormal development of the cell. So cell size is same, cell structure is same, the number is same, but if you observe, the internal structure is not same. It has changed. So here there is abnormal, it is not developed normally. So there is abnormal development of cell in dysplasia. Okay, so these are all different kind of adaptations to stress. So if we consider, if we are knowing about the cellular adaptations, so during this adaptation, when they are adapting, there you can see the different kind of changes are taking place, which may lead to some kind of diseases. For example, the cancer. So normal cells become cancerous cells because they have adapted themselves, but they have changed their function. So if you can see here in the layer, in the epithelial layer of the normal cell, you can see a normal development of the cell. In hyperplasia, in the previous slide I have told you, in hyperplasia there is increase in the number of cells. So here you can see the number of cells are increased. In dysplasia, there is abnormal development. So you can see in each of the cells there is abnormal development. The size of the nucleus is increased, other cellular organelles are decreased. So there is abnormal development of cells, which leads to a dreadful disease, development into the cancerous cell. So this dysplasia cells are converted into cancerous cells, which has uncontrolled cell division. So like this, numerous abnormal cells are dividing and they are growing in the body, which are giving rise to cancer disease. Okay, so after, when the cell doesn't adapt well to the stress, it has to go through the cell injury. So in this injury, there are different types. In that we can see there is reversible injury, that is cell recovery, means if during the cell adaptations, if the cell gets proper treatment, or if it faces a normal situation, it can reverse its stages. It can go back to the normal. But if it doesn't overcome the adaptation, if it doesn't overcome the stress, it goes for the next step, that is cell injury. In that there are two types, there is apoptosis and other one is the necrosis. In this, apoptosis is the programmed cell death, where the cell doesn't die suddenly. It has to go through the processes, it has to go through some cascade where there are some chain of reaction, and then only there is death of the cell. But in the other type, that is called as necrosis, there is sudden death of the cell. If the stress is unmanageable, that time the cell just spill out its internal structures, okay, and cause necrosis of the cell. So let us look into the topic more deeply, that there are when there is cell death, it is of two types, that is programmed cell death and other one is the sudden death. The term programmed cell death is called as apoptosis, while the sudden death is called as necrosis. So in apoptosis, there is removal of unwanted cell which is required by the body. Each and every day, each and every hour, our bodies is undergoing the removal of unwanted cells continuously. At one hand, there is division of cell, there is growing of cells, the new cells are replaced, the old cells are replaced by the new ones. When there is replacement, there has to be removal of this unwanted cell, because unwanted cell always results in increasing the nuisance in your body. So they have to be removed, otherwise they may cause some kind of infection. So this is a required process in your body, the apoptosis. Okay. So removal of unwanted cell which is present in the immune cells and during the embryogenesis. So in the embryogenesis, how it is used, I will explain you later on. In the sudden death, that is called as necrosis, it is the cells are damaged by injury. So this is the process which is causing harm to your body. So this is not at all required process. It is occurring due to some immediate stress on the cell. So that time the injury is caused to the cell and there is spillage of the internal material outside the cell or outside in the organ. So what it does, which consecutively disturbs the whole organ system, which causes infection to the nearby cells also. So which may cause harm to your body. So this may be due to mechanical damage to the cell, or it may be due to exposure to toxic chemicals. So as we have seen that the cell death is called as is of various types, that is apoptosis, necrosis, and one more type is autophagy. In apoptosis, you can see here in the image, in the apoptosis there is shrinkage of cell. The cell, as I said that there is a cascade of chain reaction, the cell death is very slow process. Okay, so that time the cells start shrinking and then it forms a fragment. Then first you can see here there is in apoptosis there is cell shrinkage. Then after shrinkage of cell there is blebbing. Here you can see there is blebbing of cells, where later on the blebs are formed, which are then forming, they are cutting out in the form of fragments. So there is blebbing. Then here you can see in the apoptosis during the cell death, there is the membrane integrity is maintained till the end. Okay, where in necrosis there is loss of membrane integrity. So I will tell you that later on. So first was shrinkage, then blebbing, membrane integrity is maintained till the last. Then chromatin condensation and DNA laddering takes place. Chromatin get condensed and very small and DNA laddering takes place. Then followed by a nuclear fragmentation. There is no spillage of the nuclear or degradation. There is fragmentation. Then condensed membrane bound cellular fragments, then depolymerization of cytoskeleton. So one by one step wise these organelles are degraded or gets fragmented. But in necrosis, as I have said, the necrosis occurs suddenly. That time what happens, there is swelling of cell. The cell enlarges. Just in the case of apoptosis, the cell shrinks. Okay, in necrosis the cell swells. So there is loss of, as the swelling of cell occurs, the membrane gets disturbed and it loses its integrity, and as the membrane loses its integrity, it allows the exterior material to come to enter inside the cell into the cytoplasm, where this due to entry of this exterior material into the cell, whole damages of the cytoplasmic organelles, the nucleus takes place. Then there is also, due to this, there is organelle swelling and there is no DNA laddering. So in this you can see in this picture that the cell membrane is disturbed, and due to this there is spillage of internal material outside the cell and entry of external material inside the cell, due to which there is swelling of the other organelles. Okay, so it causes harm to the body. Autophagy, in autophagy there is no dramatic changes that has taken place in apoptosis and necrosis takes place. So there is no dramatic changes in the cell size remains same. So there is increased number of double membrane autophagic vesicles. So the autophagic vesicles numbers are increased, which try to selfly eat the same organelles present inside the cell. So there is degradation of Golgi polyribosomes and the endoplasmic reticulum, while there is partial chromatin condensation, and also there is no DNA laddering. So these are the processes called as apoptosis, necrosis and autophagy, which are due to which the cell death is caused. So let's move further to know the terms necrosis and apoptosis. So here let us first study about the necrosis. So this is a normal cell where all structures are there at definite positions. The structure is maintained properly with the membrane integrity. Here you can see, due to some stress, there is swelling of the cell. Here swelling of the cell is observed, the cell size is enlarged, okay. But if at this stage, if it again gets the normal stimulus, okay, if the stress is gone, that time again it can reverse to the normal position. But when it proceeds from the swelling with the same stress condition, it enlarges, it starts swelling more, where the organelles are also enlarged in size and get swells, and this condition is now irreversible because the organelles are now started swelling, and then at last, as there is growth of all the enlargement of all the organelles, now the cell is going to burst out. So there is bursting of cell, there is spillage of internal organelles in the exterior environment. So there is disintegration of all the organelles. So that was about the necrosis. Reversely, if you see in the apoptosis, which is, I've said that the process occurs slowly and in the chain wise reaction only. So in the normal cell, if you see, there is shrinkage of the cell, which here you can see there is swelling of the cell, here there is shrinkage of the cell. Here you can see there is swelling and here there is shrinkage. The cell becomes smaller and smaller, okay. The internal organelles get fragmented, there is pinching off of the fragments, and here you can see after condensation there is fragmentation. There is no swelling of organelles, there is no breaking or disintegration, but slowly they get fragmented, and in the fragmented bodies in the small vesicles, they are included in the small vesicles, so that these are enclosed in a membrane where they are not spilled outside in the external environment. So they are not causing any harm to any other cell, just they fragment themselves and they are degraded as a apoptotic bodies. Here you can see each organelle included in the apoptotic body is containing, they are bound by a membrane in which they degrade themselves. So these are the apoptotic bodies, okay. So hope you have understood this slide. So let us now see the actual causes of necrosis, okay. Necrosis, these are some situation which occurs suddenly. It may be while cooking, it may be while driving, it may be while teaching, it may be while reading. At any place the necrosis takes place. You never know at what time what will happen. So these are all sudden things. So these are some of the examples which are causing sudden changes in the cell, that is the burned skin. Okay, you can see over here there is change in the structure of the cell, there is a disintegration of the cells, okay, and damage to the cell, and this leads to cell death. Then there is infection due to it may be due to viruses, it may be a bacterial infection, it may be a fungal infection, any kind of infection which causes redness in the area and causing pus into the infection, which is making more causing more pain to that area, okay, and leading to swelling of this area. So this is one kind of necrosis. Then next is due to the toxic effect of the snake bite. There may be effect of different toxins at that different places. There may be a toxins like chemical, there may be a toxin like some different kind of bites of insects. Here I have shown you the image of toxic effect of snake bite, where you can see a swollen leg and the ischemia caused due to the blockage of the artery supplying blood. Okay, here you can see a bite mark of the snake, okay, and the swollen toe you can see over here. So this is a part of necrosis. And here you can see ischemia. It is an infection caused due to some kind of diseases where the artery supplying blood to each and every tissue organ is blocked, and which leads to blackening or reddening of that area, bluish and blackish red, or reddening of that area. So this is the ischemia. So these are some causes of necrosis. Now let us see some causes of apoptosis. In apoptosis, what happens, as I have said, it's a programmed cell death, genetically programmed cell death. So the cell has to decide, as the cell has decided their fate, that after development up till this much day it has to die or it has to stop its function. So in the first case, in the first slide also I have told you about the embryogenesis and morphogenesis. So apoptosis has a very important role during embryogenesis. You can see in the first image that in this there is a tadpole larva, which is a larva of a frog or Xenopus levis. It's a tadpole larva where it is having a tail in the larval condition, but you can see in the adult condition the tail is degraded or the tail is lost. So in this conversion of larvae to adult condition, there are some organelles or some structure which has to be degraded, okay, or disintegrated. So this during this conversion, some structures may lose their cells to form a different kind of organelle structure. So that time here you can see the tail is replaced by a legs over here, okay, and it is having forelimbs and hind limbs. So in case of hand, the palm, or in the formation of forelimbs and hind limbs in the human being also, as you all know, we are formed from a ball of a soft tissue, and after that some divisions, we are during the morphogenesis we are having different kind of organ development. So in the case during the organ development, there is cell death of different kind of cells which help to form the fingers. It may be the hand finger or the toes finger, to give a definite shape to the body, to give a definite shape to that part. So as you can see in this finger, in this, if there was no cell death, as we would not have a definite structure of our palm or a hand. But due to death of the cells from the middle of the finger, we are able to shake our fingers, we are able to have elasticity at fingers, so definite shape is given to our fingers due to cell death of the middle masses. So this helps in forming during the embryonic development and morphogenesis. Then the next thing, very important thing, is during the menstrual cycle. It is called as involution, physical involution during menstrual cycle. In this case, what happens, during the secretory phase, the endometrium is developed normally, but during the menses of 5 days, there is shedding of the endometrium layer. So that time what happens, the layers are removed, okay, during this menses period. At that time the cells are degraded, Okay, but later on they are again replaced by some new cells. So during this menstrual period there is physiological involution due to apoptosis. Then the last thing is the cell aging. In the previous topic I have discussed about the cell aging, that as you are aging, lots of cell stops functioning and they have to die, leading to some non-working vital organs. You can see the skin, the loosening of eyes, drooping of skin. So all these skin cells have caused the cell death, and which are showing the symptoms of cell aging. Apart from this, there is also one example of the lactating mother. Post pregnancy, after 1 year of lactating to the young ones, after weaning, there is during the pregnancy there is enlargement in the breast due to production of the milk. But post pregnancy, after the 1 year of when the young ones stop feeding, that time the breast size obtains the normal position or the normal shape. Also during the pregnancy, you can see that there is a big uterus formation for the development of the baby, but after the pregnancy the uterus has to go to the normal position. So that time also this is the example of apoptosis. So now let us see some minute differences between the concepts of apoptosis and necrosis. So apoptosis is the programmed cell death, while necrosis is the sudden death of cell or a group of cell, which may happen immediately or suddenly. In apoptosis there is a distinctive and important mode of cell death. It is very important regulatory process in the body, while necrosis occurs when the cells are injured due to the extreme heat or cold or due to toxic chemicals. Apoptosis involves physiological and pathological process like embryogenesis, implantation, organogenesis and developmental involution. While in necrosis there is impairment of blood supply, toxic effects, immunological injury, then infection, excessive heat or cold. Apoptosis, as it is a very important process taking place in our body, it is required in the body, so it causes no harm to the body. But the necrosis, it is very harmful as it causes infection to the nearby cells also, which leads to impairment of the working of the organs of the systems. So hope you have understood the concept of apoptosis and necrosis. So students, if you have any question, please do write me in the chat box. So thank you for watching, and please do like my video and subscribe to RBNB College Srirampur educational channel. Thank you.